Fear is the psychophysical manifestation of man's expectation of physical, mental, or spiritual harm. It is associated with the desire to avoid pain. If there were no pain in human life, we wouldn't fear anything. If we analyze it, we see that fear actually increases pain. It can double a person's suffering. That is why one should learn to lessen fear and ultimately conquer it completely. Destroying the consciousness of fear. Extracts from lectures by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1940. Do you know that if you had no fear consciousness, you would never suffer? If you had absolutely removed all fear, even if you broke a bone in some part of the body, you wouldn't feel pain. You would feel some sensitivity, a recognition that you had been injured, but you would not suffer. Fear emphasizes that sensitivity into pain. The fear attitude says what a terrible thing it is that has happened to you that you should be afraid, and immediately there starts the pain. God never intended us to have pain. Sensations were given to protect the body from harm, but pain developed when man allowed his mind to become the slave rather than the master of sensations. Many years from now, when you will read my talks, you will find in scientific books research supporting these truths. Pain is nothing but a mental construct. If you see a stranger cut his finger, you don't feel pain. But if a mother sees her child injured, she suffers too. Pain is caused by a sympathetic reaction, a mental attachment. If the mind recognizes and strongly asserts that it is separate from the body, how then can bodily injury inflict pain on the mind? Just as under local anesthetic, you may undergo a surgical procedure but not feel pain because the mind is disconnected from that part of the body. So pain can be transcended at will by persons who have self-control and a mind that is non-attached and impersonal toward the body. Though the bodies of even great masters may suffer disease or injury due to metaphysical causes of taking on the karma of others, they know themselves as the indestructible life and consciousness within the body, separate from the innate fears of physical form. Why should you enslave your mind to the body through the delusion of fear that makes you suffer? In deep meditation, you too will realize yourself as the transcendent soul. Train your children and yourself to be fearless. Psychological studies showed that if from early childhood we were trained not to fear, most of the pains of the body will disappear or be greatly lessened. That is a fact. A doctor in the orthopedic ward of a hospital told me that children vie with each other to be the first to get their deformed limbs operated upon, whereas adults have to be coaxed for weeks. And at the time of their operation, they are usually beset with emotion and fear. Because children's minds are still pure, their brains haven't yet to record life's tragedies. They are less subject to pain. Having just come from the astral plane, where they dwelt in previous bodies of light, they are less attached to the vulnerable physical body than are adults, and are therefore not as afraid of hurting it. Of course, even in small children, you will see some who are very fearful because they have brought from a past incarnation a subconscious fear complex. But usually, the brain of a newborn gives the child a fresh start in life. Although children are not really children, they are aged souls of many past lives. Still, their former habits and attachments are pretty well covered up when they are reborn, so that they have a chance to begin anew in the infant life. But if a child has a latent phobia from the past, some present experience may rouse the dread that is buried in the subconscious mind, and in a moment the child may become chronically fearful for seemingly no reason. If such a fear complex is there, it must be transmuted by gradually teaching the child fearlessness. If a child is brought up in fearlessness, even the apprehensions that are lodged in his consciousness from past incarnations can be cleared out. Parents should never nurture fear in their children. The threat of ghosts and scary stories are not the impetus you should use to correct a child's behavior. You may be impairing the child's outlook on life. Intimidation is harmful, such as, "If you don't behave, the boogeyman will get you," or to threaten shutting the child in the dark closet. Fear of darkness and scary ghosts go together. To rouse such fright in a child is terrible. It creates a nervousness that paralyzes the natural progress of the soul. Whenever anxiety or apprehension comes, the best recipe is to drive it forcibly from the mind. Do not wait, because fear quickly increases the impulse of fear. Under no circumstances let fear take control of your mind and will. Whenever there is a fear, look at it squarely in the face. Try to remove the outer cause and take steps to embolden the mind to overcome that trepidation. If you are afraid of the dark, put on the light until calmness returns, and then turn it off, and practice remaining and moving about in the dark for longer and longer periods, until that dread no longer exists. Fear attracts the very thing of which you are afraid. Instead of fear, implant a sense of caution. Caution means simply, "I must not do this because it portends a harmful result. God has given me this body. I am expected to take care of it." To learn from each mistake, not to make that same blunder again, that is being cautious. Say there is a certain possession that you like. You take logical care of it, and it never breaks because you have been cautious. But then say you have another treasure, one that you are always afraid will break. It is not unlikely that it will be broken because of your obsessive fear. People think fearfulness will help them avoid what they are afraid of, but fear is not a bulwark of protection. Fear actually tends to engender the very thing you are dreading. When you are afraid of something, it captivates your thinking with deep feeling and attention. Thoughts are powerful vibratory creators. Whatever you think of intensely and continuously tends to come to pass in your life. Many financial failures and much suffering of disease are brought about that way. You undergo a little trouble with your health or your business, and the anxiety this rouses becomes lodged in the brain. You begin to dwell on that fear so much that your mental image bursts into manifestation, bringing about the very thing you are afraid of. Take the fear of accidents. If you continually harbor such apprehensions in your consciousness, you are making mishaps all the more likely. Why? Because that fear will be paralyzing the brain and nerves. The mind will be busy with unreasonable worry instead of with caution and calm effort to do the things right. As a result, you bring about the very misfortune you fear. Healing the body through fearlessness. Fear also does immense harm to your physical well-being. In severe cases, it may stop the heart or brain action. In the present war, World War II, many have died of fright. And there have been known cases of individuals whose hair has suddenly turned white out of dire fear. Numerous ailments are worsened and also caused by nervousness and fear. Chronic indigestion is one of them. The supreme factor in the health of the body is the life force. And when the flow of the energy is obstructed or impeded by tension and worry, the nerves do not function properly to transmit the impulses by which the food you ingest is digested, or by which the body's immunity and other vital activities are regulated. You see, life energy in the flesh is controlled by mind, and if your mind is filled with fears and anxieties, that energy becomes paralyzed, and then your health suffers. I have healed many people just by removing fear from their minds. You would be surprised to know how many diseases can be cured this way. In treating disease, there is a mental approach, as well as a physical or a chemical approach. Most people rely on the latter, using surgery or drugs, but often find that there are many ailments for which medical science has no cure. The mental approach works much more effectively if the mind is convinced that it has all power over the body. The mental method of healing was extolled by Jesus when he said, "Thy faith hath made thee whole." I have used mental methods in almost all departments of healing, and I know mind power works. But it will not work if you do not follow the right laws. You must know how to use the mind. In most cases, attempts to heal by mind power fail, because the mind continues to entertain fear. While mentally affirming that you are well, in the background of your mind you are doubting. When you affirm, "I am well, I have no cold," do not hold the feared thought that the cold is persisting. Go on affirming positively, continuously, until the thought of the cold is completely driven out from your conscious and subconscious minds, and the thought of health is irrevocably installed there. Mental healing is not a simple matter. That is why I advise those who haven't mastered the laws of mind that it's all right to take physical aid, but at the same time, keep on conditioning your consciousness to make your mind work for you. Remove the paramount impediment of fear, which chloroforms the mind. Suppose you have been suffering from a disease for 5 years. Fear makes you think you will never get well. It is necessary to keep reminding yourself, "Throughout my life I was all right, except for these 5 years. Why should I not think I can regain good health?" Doubt must be completely removed from your thought. Mind is everything. Cultivate its power by practicing fearlessness. Fear subconsciously pictures the disease you are dreading and thereby creates a favorable environment in the body to keep those disease germs alive. For example, If you are afraid of colds, you will succumb to them much more easily than if you have a strong, positive mind. Fear is a powerful element in the spread of tuberculosis and other dangerous maladies, and in allowing the increase of germs in the body once disease is contracted. Patients who are filled with fear often succumb quickly to their ailments. Persons who live fearlessly are certainly less susceptible to disease. Presence of germs is not the only factor. Millions of germs are always all around you, hidden under your fingernails, for example. If you could see them all, you would be worried sick. Lots of diseases come and go in the body without your knowledge. Do not give them strength to cause perceptible illness. By fearing, you will get sick. Once in a while, it is good to have the body examined by a doctor, but do not dwell all the time on the body's potential frailties. Since the body is controlled by mind, if the mind is well, the body will be well. Hold strongly to the thought, I am all right. That attitude and mental affirmation releases an abundant flow of life energy, removing all kinds of difficulties. I will tell you a true story that has a practical moral. When my boys' school in India quickly outgrew its first location, our benefactor, the Maharaja of Kasim Bazar, transferred us to a larger property. But the place was infested with malaria, and soon the young children and all the teachers were sick, except myself. I had strongly made up my mind to stay well despite the unhealthy environment. They used to boil the water before drinking it. I was drinking it untreated and was never affected. But of course we could not stay there. I went to the Maharaj and said, I told you not to send the students there, that they will get sick. He countered, then what good is the training you were giving them? In response, I told him the story about the mother who took some homemade soup to her son in the hospital to help him get well. After the first spoonful, she asked, Son, are you feeling better? And the sick boy protested, Mother, the soup hasn't even reached my stomach yet. So I said to the Maharaja, You see, these boys have come straight from the comforts of their homes, and they haven't had sufficient time to assimilate their training in mind power. The soup of fearlessness had not yet reached their stomachs, and it was too soon to test them. Then he understood and gave us the use of his summer palace in the healthy climate of Ranchi. Yoga overcomes the fear of death. The strongest of all fears that we bring from childhood is the fear of death, because we have experienced that fear through so many incarnations. But death is not the end of life. It is nothing more than a transition from one plane of life to another. It is just like moving from one house to a different house. When the body house is broken down with injury or disease or worn out from old age, God says, Come out, I will give you a nice new home to live in. There is nothing to fear. It happens to everybody, saint or sinner, so it must be good. Why live with apprehensions? As long as you are not dead, you are alive. And when you are dead, it is all over, and there is nothing to worry about. Many persons fear death because they think it will be painful. But death itself is absolutely devoid of pain. It is felt only as a mental pain by those who dread losing the physical body and cling to it in panic when life is being pulled from the body and they struggle unsuccessfully to breathe. But if you have no fear, There is no such mental experience, rather a peaceful sense of relief at being freed from the troublesome fleshy cage. You are not afraid when you fall asleep and have no consciousness of breathing. So why should cessation of breath at death cause you fear? That fear is a great enemy created by a wrong understanding that death is something terrible. Long practice of yoga meditation neutralizes that delusion. It teaches you the peace of the breathless state while living. In the complete calmness of body and breath, brought by deep meditation, you find yourself directly sustained by God's cosmic energy, and realize, man shall not live by bread or breath alone. You know that you are much more than this physical body. Your immortal self is above the need for food and sunshine and breath. So when death comes, you have no fear, for its freedom from body consciousness is already familiar to you. Death is a cessation of life's sorrows. It doesn't come as a punishment, but as a necessary end to our fleshly confinement, that we may leave this earth and travel in a freer state to higher realms. The body may be interred or consigned to ashes, but the soul is freed. It cannot anymore be subjected to the tortures of the body. Your spirit will say, well, for a long time I've had to worry about getting hurt and paying bills and all the other troubles of material life. Now that burdensome body under my care is gone, and I am free in the peace of this astral land and body of light. When you have earned freedom from the travails of this earth, be glad. But never seek death. When you do that, it shows you are afraid of life and are not learning its lessons. You will have to come back again and again until you do. Replacing fearfulness with contentment and security in all situations. Fear of poverty is another phobia to be overcome. Of course, it is our duty to care for the less fortunate. Millions lack basic material necessities. But poverty consciousness brought about by fear is the cause of suffering in millions more. Contentment with what you have is a much richer source of happiness than being chronically afraid because you haven't got this or that. The person who is happy doing everything he can to better his lot, without wasting his energy on fear and apprehension, is much happier than the millionaire who is always worrying about his money. If you are fearful, you will never be happy, and you will make yourself a failure. Remind yourself as often as necessary that you're not going to allow fear to create mental suffering or paralyze your efforts. Even if you fail temporarily, do not lose courage. Pick yourself up and try again. Refuse to accept the fear that you cannot ultimately succeed. Constantly cultivate the soul's immortal power by meditation and God contact, and use that power in all difficulties. The soldier goes where bullets are flying like mosquitoes, despite his fear of being shot and dying, but the spiritual soldier is even greater. He conditions himself not to be afraid of death or anything else. He knows that many times, through many lives, he has fallen into the bosom of God at death, and just as often he has come out of the bosom of God at birth. There is nothing to fear about the cycles of life and death. If you fear what these experiences hold for you, you will have to reincarnate repeatedly until you learn to overcome that delusion. all imperfections must be worked out, until the soul is disentangled from the chains of fear and regains its native immortal freedom. Remember, you are a most fortunate child of God. As many as received Him, to them gave He power to become the sons of God. Do away with the fear that you will never know Him. Mentally say, Lord, I am Thine immortal child. I am made in Thy same divine image as are the exalted ones of Your children. You have a claim on God as valid as that of the greatest saint. So be proud of yourself. You are free to seek Him and by meditation to realize your divinity. You can rise beyond the highest ideal of man. Your mind can encompass infinite galaxies of stars, for you are a child of God. You have no cause to be afraid. Identify with your soul each day in meditation, and you will know, I was never born, I was never dead. Though my births and deaths have been as many as the waves of the sea, the wave comes out of the ocean and goes back into the sea again. I come from God. I am life eternal. I live and move, and I have my being in that power evermore. Never accept the limitations of your environment. Remain inwardly ensconced in the castle of God's presence. There is no other haven of safety. No hurt, no disease, not even death can reach you there. That heaven of God's presence is always within you. Find it by Kriya Yoga meditation. Even a tiny bit of this real religion protects one from great fear, the colossal sufferings inherent in the repeated cycles of birth and death. In fearlessness affirm, I am castled in God's presence. No harm can reach me, for in every situation of life, physical, mental, financial, spiritual, I am protected in the fortress of God's presence. Excerpts from the book Solving the Mystery of Life by Paramahansa Yogananda.